Exciting message. Exciting. How many of you out there like to be happy? You like to be happy? That's the title of this message, How to Be Happy. Paul is telling the Philippians how to be happy in Christ and depend upon Him. We're going to read this in the Amplified Bible here. We're almost finished with the book of Philippians, and it's been a real joy to do this. We're going to be going back into the book of Exodus here for a little bit of that. That's taking a lot of work, so it takes hours and hours and hours and hundreds of hours on that book I've spent, but it's worth it. Starting with verse number 10, God's provisions, how to be happy. I rejoice greatly in the Lord, that now at last you have renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned about me before, but you had no opportunity to show any evidence of it. Not that I speak from any personal need, for I have learned to be content and self-sufficient through Christ, satisfied to the point where I am not disturbed or uneasy regarding my circumstances. And boy, that's quite a statement. I know how to get along and live humbly in difficult times, and I also know how to enjoy abundance and live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing life. Whether well-fed or going hungry, whether having an abundance or being in need. I can do all things which He has called me to do through Him who strengthens and empowers me to fulfill His purpose. I am self-sufficient in Christ's sufficiency. I am ready for anything and equal to anything through Him who infuses me with inner strength and confident peace. Nevertheless, it was right for you to share with me in my difficulties. And you Philippians know that in the early days of preaching the gospel, after I left Macedonia, no church shared with me in the manner of giving and receiving except you alone. Paul never asked for anything. For even in Thessalonica you sent a gift more than once for my needs. Not that I seek a gift myself, or itself, but do seek the profit which increases to your heavenly account and the blessing which is accumulated for you. But I have received everything in full, and more I am amply supplied, having received from Epaphroditus the gifts you sent to me. They are a fragrant aroma of an offering, an acceptable sacrifice which God welcomes, in which He delights. We'll stop right there for now. Go back into the Greek and look at it from the original language. As I said in the last message in the book of Philippians, real Bible scholars and students do not study the Bible in English, they study it in Greek and in Hebrew, because that's the inspired text. Almost all of the religious, what we might call controversies, were not looking at the Bible in English, but in the original languages. And I want you to read with me this Greek here in verse number 10. Ekarain de en krio, megalos, pote, ede, pote, anathalete, to hyper, emu, phronain, ho, kai, ephronete, ekai, reste, de. It starts off here with a little weak adversive conjunctive particle that is in the second word in this lesson, page 85 in the Analytical Lexicon. And I know some of you are really, I get a lot of comments on this and questions. And I'm glad that that there are many of you out there that really enjoy the deep studies of God's Word from His original languages. I rejoice, moreover I rejoice, or is caused to rejoice actually, because it's passive voice, first person singular, second aorist, indicative passive voice, from Cairo. I was caused to rejoice in the Lord. Now, I want you to see something here, in Kyrio. Now, that's locative singular masculine, with a preposition in front of it. Preposition page 137. But the word Kyrio there means Jehovah. In the Septuagint, the word Lord or Jehovah was always Kyrios, or Kyrio, well, whatever inflection it had in that sentence. Moreover, I was caused to rejoice in Jehovah, in the Lord. Megalos, greatly. Now this little word here is used one time in the New Testament. This is it, Paul uses it here. A little adverb. Greatly. Because, hote, a day already, because already, that little conjunction, because, 294, a day, that's an adverb on page 185. A very rare form. Pote, when, little interrogative particle there, page 338. Ana thalete, ye revived, ye blossomed again. Second person plural, second aorist, indicative active. Ana thalo, ana thalo. Now this word here is a springtime word, a springtime word. Now in the springtime, and actually it will start in the San Joaquin Valley next month. Next month, Maryland, what blooms? What blooms in February in San Joaquin Valley?
Almond.
The almond trees bloom, they blossom. Bloom all over. That's the word here. It means to bloom again, to blossom again. Ye revived and ye blossomed again. This is springtime for you. Second person plural, second aorist, indicative active from ana, up, and thalo, to throw up. To throw blossoms up. In the plants in the ground, you'll see seeds coming up out of the ground. You'll see little plants all over the place. Revived and blossomed again. The one on behalf of me. The one, to, and hyper there, it means on behalf of, page 414. Of me, genitive singular, first person pronoun. To thank, proname, present infinitive active from phroneo. This means to stir up your mind, to thank. You remembered me, you thought about me. You know, people tell me that they've been praying for me, and I really appreciate that. That's what Paul's saying here. I understand you're thinking of me and you've been praying for me. Not only did you pray for me, but you sent something tangible that I might touch, that you were really concerned about me. And not only did you say something, but you put your money where your mouth is. To thank, upon which, S there, comes from epi, page 153 and 4. It's a shortened form. Ho, which, little relative pronoun, locative, singular, indeed, or also, there, that word kai there, page 208. You kept on thinking. Look at that, ephronete. That's second person plural, imperfect indicative active, from the same word up there, phroneo. Not only did you think about me, but you kept on thinking about me. And you kept on not having opportunity. Akai reste. Second person plural, imperfect, indicative, middle voice. You kept on not having a good season. You didn't have a season to do this. You didn't have an opportunity. But, weak adversative conjunction, but you kept on not having an opportunity. Verse number 11 now. Uk, pote, koth. Koth comes from kata. Hysteresen, lego, ego, gar, emathon, en, hois, ame, atra, atarches, ene. Paul read a lot of the Greek masters and poets and philosophers, and this basically comes from one of them. Not that, uk, add a little adverb negation, 294, and then the hote, 294 also, conjunction. Koth, according to. Koth again has been changed for euphony. It comes from kata now, page 213. Not that accordingly need or lacking necessity. That word hysteresin, to be behind or late. I say, first person singular pregnant active there now. And that conjugation is oase, omeneti, usiane, or logo, leges, legay, legomen, legeti, legusi, or legain. So, and it's here first person singular, lego. I, ego, and this is where we get the word ego in English. Nominative singular, first person pronoun. I say, for I say, that little gar there's casual particle, page 75. Emathon, that I repeatedly learned, looking at his long experience and matter by habit as a unit and practice. I have learned by practice, I have learned by habit, in which things, little preposition on 137, which things there, it's a little relative pronoun. These such circumstances, I am self-sufficient. I am, present indicative active, Amy. Self-sufficient. It's an old adjective. It's a Stoic word. It is used only here in the New Testament. Autarches. Socrates' quotation of thought. He that is content with least, for that autokreia is nature's wealth. 5 words for the mind, and here also is in this deal here. But he's quoting basically Socrates. And he said, he that is content with least is content with everything, is happy. 4 and verse 12 now. Paul is drawing the metaphors now from the mystery religions, the initiatory rites of paganism. These people were all very acquainted with this. Oida, gar, ta, pe, nu, stay, oida, kai, perusi, un, en, pante, kai, en, pasin, men, me, and mai, kai, corti, zeste, kai, penon, kai, perusu, en, kai, hysteriste. Both. Now here we have a cumulative particle in kai. It is not and here, but it's both. Page 208. Both I know, I have known thoroughly, first person singular perfect indicative active from oida. Both I have known habitually and thoroughly and by experience to be humbled. Ta, pe, nu, stay. Present infinitive passive. How to be caused to be humbled. And I know, oida, first person singular perfect indicative active. I have known through experience and personal understanding to be in abundance, padru suen, to overflow. Present indicative active from parisio. I know how to have more than enough. you have so much food on the table that you can't eat it all. You have to have it leftovers. Now, you have to realize back in this period of time, the leftovers many times they threw to the dogs because they didn't have refrigeration. If it was winter time, maybe it would keep. If it was freezing or close to freezing, but most of the time their food was contaminated after they were, and you can only keep it according to the law so many days, and then you had to get rid of it. In God's law, it tells that. And to be in abundance, to overflow, to have more than you need, enough to throw to the dogs, enough for scraps. I guarantee you, in my house when I grew up in that little old dirt floor shack with no door on it, just a flap, tarp flap, and a screen window. We didn't have any scraps. We didn't have any. You ate everything you got because that's all you were going to get. And you ate one thing, you didn't have a variety, you ate the same thing every day. We had beans for breakfast, beans for lunch, and beans for dinner if we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if we were real lucky, we'd have hog rind in there. My grandmother would send me down to the store for dog bones and hog rinds. They'd cut the rinds off the bacon, and they'd throw it on the floor. We'd take it home, wash it out in the canal. We didn't have running water either. And she'd put that in the beans, give it some flavor, a little bit of extra nutrition, because we needed it. Our dessert was beans with sugar on them. That was it. To be in abundance in all things. And also in all things I have been initiated. This word here is our calls to be initiated. First person singular, perfect, indicative, passive. I've been taught. I've been led into the mysteries of life, into the great and beyond, into the great unknown. Both to be stuffed. Kai here again, now it's a cumulative particle again. Both to be stuffed, kortazeste. That means fattened, like a fattened animal. Kortos. It comes from hay and fodder. To fill with grass and hay. The term here talks about the fatted calf. They would take a young calf away from its mother, and they would put him in a little close stall, and they would feed him all the food that he could eat and fatten him up. And they would feed him all the grass and all the hay that he could eat, and they would give him all the sweet things like milk and whatever. They would just literally pour it to him. Stuffing. I have known how to be fatted for the kill. That's what it is, fatted for the kill. And to hunger, painon. To hunger to starve, and to thirst. Dying of thirst and dying of hunger. Kai there both, again. To be abound, padrusoin. To be in total abundance, overflow. Like I said, to have enough to throw away or give to other people. And conjunction here, page 208, to be in necessity. Present infinitive passage, to be caused to be in necessity. Necessity, not have enough. I remember when I was growing up in Fish Lake Valley, my mother came up here. It's the first time I ever lived with her in my life, really. And with my stepdad, and we lived on a ranch down here in the very south end of the valley. My mother didn't know really how to cook at all. She had to learn everything up here, and she cooked on the wood stove. She was cooking without electricity. And she didn't know how to go buy groceries either. Didn't know how to do anything like that. She was the first time on her own in her life, away from her mother. Her mother did all the cooking, everything, or I did. And she came up here, and we ran out of food. My grandmother made a trip up here, and she brought a 100-pound sack of pinto beans, a 100-pound sack of onions, and a 100-pound sack of potatoes. But we ran out. It didn't last forever. There wasn't a store. There was a store 25 miles from us. You could buy 5 loaves of bread for $1 in a store in Bishop. But it cost $1 for 1 loaf of bread here. so we didn't buy any bread here. But to go to Bishop, we had to go over Gilbert Pass, down to Deep Spring Valley, and over at Westgard Pass. And back in the early and mid-50s, that was a real trek. It was only like 40 miles over there, but that was a hard 40 miles. He used to take the Indians over here, they'd take a wagon, and we were not, most of the roads were dirt roads back then. Anyway, we got very hungry. Very hungry. I know what it means for your stomach to swell up and be growling and going on day and night, where you growl so much you can't go to sleep at night. The chickens quit laying eggs, and they didn't want to kill the chickens because they were old. They were so tough, I imagine. We didn't have a freezer. We shot a deer, and I shot quail and doves and whatever I could shoot, rabbits and whatever, all I could. And everything was just delightful to have anything. That was a hard life for my mother, never having done that at all. She was just out of her element altogether. To be hungry. She never had to be hungry. She could go down around the corner and go to the Jolly Cone or whatever. There wasn't any McDonald's back then. There was nothing here. Now, verse number 13. Panta eskuo anto en dina monte me. I am strong enough, he says here, eskuo, first person singular, present, indicative, active. I am strong enough. All things, panta, panta means everything. All things in the into in dina monte, in the empowering. That's a present participle active, dative singular and masculine, or actually locative singular and masculine. Empowering me, the one empowering me. And this here, it means to pour power in, pour power into it. Now when you have an automobile today, and you go out and you run up and down the road all you want to go, you got to keep oil and you've got to keep gasoline in the thing to make it go. And a certain amount of maintenance. Back in the 50s, there was a lot of maintenance. But Paul is using a term here. Of course, they rode donkeys and they rode camels and things like that. And a camel and a donkey still have to have food to make them energized. You got to energize them. You got to empower them. A car, you can only go so far before you put gasoline in it. Marilyn's always worried about running out of gasoline all the time. Is that right? All the time worried about running. What's first time we take off, she said, "What's the gas gauge say?" Every time. What's the gas gauge say? We've almost run out of gas a few times out in this wild country. And that bothers her because it's not good to get caught because you don't have enough power to go to the next place. You don't have enough power to go someplace that's safe. Paul uses this term to pour power into something as a motorhome, as a car. The cults of paganism ask for power of their demons to empower them. And Paul is using this term here that they use to empower them. I remember one of the great heroes of World War II. His name was Jacob Vusa. Jacob Vusa. He was from the Solomon Islands. And when he was a young man, he was a sheriff, a high sheriff in the Solomon Islands. But he was a pagan. He was a devil worshiper. And he would go to his demon and he would pray to that demon and he would ask it to empower him. And this is the term, this is where his term comes from, is this type of situation here. And make them strong enough to go out. They said when a man heard that Jacob Vusa was on his trail that he just shuddered. He just literally, sometimes they lay down and died in fear. They were scared to death. Because he would not only catch them, but he would pull their heart out and eat it. They'd take them in. When you had Jacob Busa on your trail, you were in trouble. In World War II, he was a fantastic, powerful man still. He was running around the Solomon Islands in his breechcloth, and he worked with American Marines during World War II. And he was caught, and he was tortured. He was they poured salt water down his throat. He was totally dehydrated. They lacerated him with swords, those samurai swords. One time before they got him going to this place, and they decided they didn't need him anymore, so they run the sword through him. They cut his throat and left him for dead. He got up and ran to where the Marines were, and he told them how many people were coming and what kind of guns they had and machinery and everything else before he had ever accepted treatment. I think they gave him 22 pints of blood. He was so dehydrated that he didn't bleed to death. And his force and will was so great. But he had a different force and will now. As he looked to those demon gods to empower him, he looked to the God of heaven to empower him. And the God of heaven empowered him to do what he did there. He came to America, and the Marines down in Camp Pendleton, they wanted to honor him. He came and spoke at the seminary where I was, and I just, this guy was something else. He was just a superhuman person. He was empowered by God. 2 weeks later, after he was treated, he was out being a scout again for the Marines. Carlson's Raiders down there. They asked him down at Marine Base what he wanted. He said he wanted two things. He wanted Brother Morley, Neil Morley, that was in Carlson's Raiders. He was the one that led him to the Lord. He wanted Neil Morley to establish churches in the Solomon Islands, missionary Baptist churches. And he wanted the Marines to give him some instruments so his people could play and make music like they did in America. And they gave it to him. He was knighted. He was Sir Jacob Busa, knighted by the Queen of England. The people in, this is all in this word, in Dina Manunte, in Dina Mo'o. In the Philippines, when they went to the Philippines, they were carrying 38 specials. When they went to the Vietnam, they were carrying rifles and pistols. You know that they had to soup up those rifles and pistols? Because these people would pray and they would take dope. And they would go out there and they couldn't stop them. They started the 45 ACP to stop these people. That's when they developed the Model 1911 and the Model 1917 pistols that had 45 caliber, 230 grain bullets. Powerful load that would stop these people that were empowered by drugs and demons. Paul is borrowing these terms and saying that we have the God of heaven, like Jacob Busa went through after he'd been stabbed and his throat cut, stabbed through all of his body, throat cut, bleeding all over the place. He went and wouldn't even take treatment, and he told them to all the reconnaissance, all of the information that they needed, all the intelligence that they needed to meet these Japanese in battle. Paul says he has the power from Jesus. Jesus keeps empowering him, dynamis. As long as he follows Jesus, he has power. That's the word right there. That's where it comes from. This is a lot of what we might call cults, customs, manners of the people. Verse number 14. Plain kalos, epoi e sate, si koi non ne santes, mu te Phillips. Nevertheless, that word there, a little adverb, comes from polis. Nevertheless, well. Now this word well here describes this next word. Ye worked out. Ye worked out well. Second person plural, first aorist, indicative active. You worked out well. This word comes, our word poem comes from this word. It means to make things rhyme. Because you had so many things in common. Sig hoinon nun te santes. That is nominative plural masculine, first aorist participle active. Everything worked out because we had all these things in common with me in my affliction. In my affliction of tribulation, pressure, hard circumstances. You ever gone through hard circumstances? Paul did. Paul's life was threatened. He had people that swore they wouldn't eat or drink until they killed him. Verse number 15 now. Oidate de kai himes, phile pesuoi, hote en arche, tu euangeliou, hote exelothon, apo Macedonias, Udemia. Moi, ecclesia, ekoi non ese. Eis logon, dosios, kai, lem, seos, me, hemes, monoi. Now Paul's going to use a metaphor here, and a mechanical metaphor, or a mercantile. Moreover, I have known thoroughly, that's second person plural, perfect, indicative, active, and I have known perfectly also you all. Philippians, Philippians. Philippians. By the way, the name, that town of Philippi was named after Philip of Macedon, Alexander the Great's father. Because, this word hote here, a little casual particle, in beginning, arche, in the absolute beginning of the gospel, when I went out from Macedonia, Macedonias, no one, me, no church, it shared with me. No church, literally, she shared with me. Third person singular, first aorist, indicative, active. No church, no ecclesia shared with me. And it's a matter of record, he says here. Eis logon, a matter of record, of giving. That comes from didymai dosios. Givingly is what it literally is, the adverb. And receivingly, actually, it's an adverb there also. Except, except you all. Only. You all only. You are the only ones. You're the only ones that help me. You are my saving grace. You are the one that literally brought me from starvation and hunger and cold. They helped him. We'll start our next one in verse number 16 in the next class. How to be happy in the Lord. How to be happy in the Lord. Paul tells you. Be empowered in the grace of God. Look to Jesus for the power. Look, he's your gasoline. He's your high-octane fuel. He's the one that protects you. He's the one that gives you strength. The one that gives you rest. Our Father, thank you for this message, for your honor and glory. Please forgive me where I failed you. And let this message go out wherever it is in the world and touch people's lives and feed them. I pray for my students all over the world. I pray for Nancy in Pennsylvania, and Don in Wales, and all the ones in India, Japan, the Philippines, Samoan Islands, Australia, New Zealand. All do you know who all of them are? Brother Max and others out there, out on the mission fields. This to them is as food. In Jesus' name I pray.